I grew up with not a lot of money, and I always had to like save money and work for it for a university, whatever. I worked at the chemical industry by a Leverkusen where my father worked. I worked at Mannesmann in the steel industry to make money. So I know what hard work means. And for me, it was always a pleasure that I made it, that I actually make films coming from the little shit town by Leverkusen, and you think like, okay, I cannot now get all like crying and whiny because critics don't hate me. What is if critics would love me, but I would never made a film again? So what would I pick? Then I picked like they all hate me, but I can't keep making films. So, and I think that helped me. It was not that it didn't have an effect. Of course it has an effect, but it's also this kind of where you think, no, I don't let myself getting so down.
Not that my guest needs any introduction, but if I must come up with one, I'm simply going to say that Uwe Boll is a famous, or maybe I should say infamous, German filmmaker who's directed and produced more than 30 films and is quite unique and frankly unbelievable career. Uwe, it's an absolute pleasure.
Yeah. Hi.
I'll start with a surprising little anecdote, which
Okay.
is that you and I have met before. Of course, you won't remember because it wasn't a particularly memorable encounter for you, but 14 years ago, you came to a film festival in Slovenia, which is called Grossman's Fantastic Film and Wine Festival. It's a
Yes, I
small
remember.
but really cute thing. And yeah, I attended it. I believe it was 2010. You were there with your film Rampage. And before the film was shown, you gave a little talk. And then I asked you if we can take a picture together. And I actually found the photo just before the interview. I will include it in the YouTube video of this conversation if people want to laugh at my stupid haircut that I sported back then. But I wasn't the only one who was kind of almost starstruck. You were absolutely the main thing at the festival there, and people loved the fact that you showed up. Anyway, we're going to talk about Rampage later, but I couldn't not mention this delicious little piece of trivia.
No, that's cool. And I remember the festival actually. Now that you said it, this time I was in a lot of film festivals actually, and you never know how they turn out, right? So you have some small festivals that turn out very, very good, and you have also some festivals you think they're good, then you go there and you're like, oh fuck, why I ever came here? Yeah.
Oh, I'm happy that you remember it because it was the only time that I attended that festival, and you were there. It was really cool. But let's maybe bring it back to the beginning. I believe you were born in West Germany in 1965.
Yeah.
You go to university, you actually complete a PhD in literature from the University of Siegen. So
Yeah.
you kind of start in academia almost. But what was the thing, or maybe it was a film that you've seen that left such an impact that made you go into filmmaking instead?
I mean, the whole literature, university, whatever, was my fallback. I always wanted to make films since I was 10. And I did like super 8mm stuff and 16mm later video. And so Frank Lustig and me, my partner at that time, he wanted to make films too. And it was in my same school as me. So we chased the same dream. And it was definitely, in my case, more like the Hollywood films, like Muternity of the Bounty, or Western, like with John Wayne and stuff like this, where I felt the film is great adventure, and I want to make films in general. So, but in Germany at that time, there were only 2 film schools, in Munich and Berlin, and they didn't took me. They took only like 15 people per year. So I made the decision.
Yeah, standard film academy stuff, right?
Yeah. So if you have no contacts there,
Yeah.
whatever, like you're not getting in. And then I started in Cologne, what is close to my hometown. First, like economy and literature and stuff like this, to be a teacher or a journalist in the end, if I never get a hold into the film industry. So, and during that university time, we shot German Fright movie, the first film, 1991. Frank Lustig and me, like on 35 millimeters and 16 millimeter mixed. And then we blowed up the 16 millimeter to 35 millimeter in the end, and released it on some screens. And that made us being, in a way, part of the film industry, because we sold the DVD rights, the VHS tape rights at that point, and got a little into the business, let's say it this way, on a small scale. But and then it evolved from there.
So many people dream about making a film their whole lives, but the obstacles just prove too big, or the whole thing is just too daunting, and you don't know how to assemble the crew in the beginning, where to get the money. I mean, when you start to seriously think about it, the whole thing just becomes an enormous headache, no matter how much you love movies. And most people simply quit right there and then. We've all seen it a million times.
Yeah.
How did you manage to make that very first film as a student? And where did you get the budget? Where did you get the money for it?
Yeah, so we there were two strategic ideas. I was a fan of Kentucky Fried Movie from Zucker, Abrams Zucker. It was like kind of the guys that did Naked Gun and whatever, because it was a compilation film, right? So you could shoot a scene with some actors. You shoot it for one day, and you never need that actors again, and you never need the scene again. You just we had a guy watching TV and switching channels in the film. So what was clever, because so we didn't need actors for a long time. So every actor in the film got no money, because we convinced them from acting schools and from TV shows, like, okay, give us 1 day for free, give us 1 day for free. So they played for free. And then we found a camera guy from Cologne, Richard Eckes, who had camera equipment and an editing table, a Steinbeck editing table. At that time, film was more complicated to do, because you had to shoot it on film, and you had the lab, we had to get a lab and all that stuff, and the film material. So we also got film material from Aqua and Kodak and Fuji mixed up like as test film material for free. So we really did 9 months for German Fried Movie. And we shot a day there, and then 2 weeks we did nothing. We tried to prepare the next shoot, and then we shot another scene and another scene. We acted in the film. We were our own art directors. We did everything basically, right? There was no costume designer and so on. People had no makeup, but that is, I think, the best way to learn to make a film, is to go through the whole process, from the prep to the filming to the post-production to, okay, here's the film. And you need a lot of like persistence, endurance to do this. You have to be kind of fanatic, like, no, I really want to do this, and that is the center of my life, to make that film work. Even if we both studied still, we both he was a very good soccer player, I was a very good handball player. We played in different, like we were not giving up all our hobbies and the rest of our lives, but we got the film together. And I think the cash costs were 60,000 marks at that point, would be like 30,000.
I mean, that's a lot of money for a student.
Yes, but we were also able to raise some money with friends from like Frank, from him. Mostly my parents invested nothing, but I had 10,000 savings. So I had 10,000. I think he had 10,000, and we raised 40,000 from some people, like from his family friends, but also from an like a guy who was a professional in getting you investors. And we pitched that project to him and said, can you get us 20 grand, 30 grand? And he did a send out, like a mail out to his investors, and they were normally investing in houses and whatever, right? So never in the film. But because it was so
also not film people at all.
No, but it was so small, like 5,000 marks. So I think we got 4 investors from him, each 5,000 marks. They didn't get any money back, but but I think they never expected to really get the money back. It was more like kind of a sponsoring, And we went to a car dealership. I remember Seat, and we got like free rental cars for a few weeks and put them in the film. So you see in the film various product placement things, Chio chips, and we got like 500 bags of Chio chips, and we had them as catering, like here eat more chips, guys, right? And I got also vouchers from McDonald's. So I contacted McDonald's and say, look, we can show McDonald's in our film at one point in the back. And they had no clue what we were shooting. And I think they gave me that vouchers like $2 each, like a whole staple of it, like a few $1,000 in McDonald's vouchers. And because they didn't really care, it was not a big investment, right? That they just sent me this as a marketing thing. But look, $2,000 at McDonald's was for us like 7, 8, 9 days of full catering for everybody. Yeah. So, I mean, of course, this kind of production, the real indie, no budget, super low budget production, people cannot be picky. They know who's in a film like this or works on a film like this. They're not getting pampered, So, all the girls in the film, we said, do your own makeup. I mean, we don't have any makeup artist or whatever. Like, however you do yourself, that is how you will look like. So, and it's funny enough that after now, when in today's time, when you compare it, it got so much cheaper to shoot a professional film, right? So because you can shoot even with your cell phone on 4K and have like a super good picture in a way, you barely need great equipment. And you also don't, like the last few films I did with digital, I didn't did makeup or hair or whatever. I said also, I give a shit. Like, and nobody cares. There's so much things in the big film world. What is all like this kind of bullshit around to spend the maximum amount of money, a hair and makeup truck, and everybody sits there and gets like nothing done. They're looking exactly the same when coming out of the truck as before. So I think it's in a way, it goes back now to the real, for a lot of people, more independent days where you can make proper product for very small money.
Yeah, I think it was years ago already where there was a feature film that actually was quite successful at the festival circuit. I think it was called Tangerine, that was just shot with 2 iPhones or something. I haven't seen it, but apparently it was pretty good.
I didn't watch the 2, but I remember the name. Yeah, and even Steven Soderbergh shot some stuff with iPhones.
Right. Yeah.
The way, I mean, of course, you have then the professional sound guy with it. You're not shooting the sound with the iPhone, but the picture, if you frame it right, or you put it on a little steady cam or a gimbal camera, whatever, like you can with an iPhone shoot very good material. You just need an external hard drive to save it. Because I mean, if you shoot 4K, your iPhone will be very fast full. So you need the data transfer the whole time.
When it comes to your taste in movies, what kind of films do you like? What are some of Uwe Boll's most beloved titles of all time? They don't have to be ordered or ranked, just from the top of your head. What comes to mind?
Yeah, for example, Jaws, Escape from New York, Dances with Wolves, but also older films. Like I like Western, Rio Bravo, El Dorado, like this kind of Western I really liked. I mean, it's a mix, right? I think interesting is when I see now who gets the prizes right now in the US, like there were the Golden Globes and whatever, right? And most of the TV shows.
Yeah, the Oppenheimers and.
Yes.
Okay.
So I didn't watch Oppenheimer, so if I will watch it soon, I went digital, like at home. I didn't make it to the movies. I also didn't watch Barbie because I just couldn't do that to me. I mean, I'm sure Barbie's maybe not a bad film or it's a satire, but I'm just not really into this stuff. But the TV series, they're getting all the prizes. When I zapped through the channels and the streamers, I watched them all and I liked them all. When I watched The Bear on Disney Plus about the cooking, the chef guy, whatever, it's
The Chef. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. No, The Bear is the title with Jeremy Allen White.
But it's about the chef, right?
Yeah. And because I had the restaurant in Vancouver, I could totally identify. My wife and I watched it, and we were laying there in the bed, and I was like, "Oh my god, it's exactly the same shit we went through." Like you have like drug addicted chef, the people don't come, the food is bad, the fridge doesn't work, whatever. So, and we loved The Bear and watched the first 2 seasons, and boom, now it gets all the prizes, right? And then we watched also Beef on Netflix with Ali Wong, like with the Chinese guys who fighting.
Yeah, I haven't seen it.
But that is a great show.
Yeah.
But it was the same thing. So we gave it a shot. And a lot of films, I have to say, I switch off. A lot of TV series, I switch off. I watch 5 minutes. I say, no, I'm not doing that to me. Forget it. I say, I don't give it the whole 8 episodes or whatever. But Beef, I watched also completely, almost binge watched. I love that show. And boom, it wins all the pricing. Succession wins all the pricing. A show I love. You Better Call Saul or Breaking Bad, shows I love. Ozark, I loved. So a lot of Yellowstone now I really like with Kevin Costner. So it's like these are shows like where now it's all mixed up. You have TV series and films you like, and in films it got harder and harder and harder to really love a film. I think the last 10, 15 years were film-wise, when you see who runs for the Oscars, a joke. I mean, there are think about La La Wood or La La Land or whatever, Moonlight, or Everyone's Everywhere All at Once, the winner from last year. That film was total crap. I didn't like it. I think it was an overdrive TikTok video. And compare this to French Connection, Raging Bull, The Goodfellas, The Godfather, Apocalypse Now, The Deer Hunter. That were films. Ronin, Heat from Michael Mann. That are all films I love. Like more like this kind of existential, like films that hit you hard in a way. And they are kind of genre, but there are more as genre. Compare Heat with De Niro and Pacino was a normal action film, like a Michael Bay, The Rock action film, whatever. So in Heat is something additional. It's just better. It really gets you, even if it's just a genre film. Ronin was the same, or Leon, like The Professional from Luc Besson with Jean Reno. There were something extra in it, what made that films just great. So, and I always look out for films where I watch them and say after, like, wow, that was a real heavy hitter, and I really loved them. But the last 5, 6, 7 years, that goes less and less. I find films like this less and less, and I see more TV series where I say, look, that is really good. I really like it. Maybe also because they spend more time for the story. Because if you have 8 episodes, you can flesh it out better.
Yeah, it seems like you're drawn to films that are a bit more of a character study, because you mentioned Raging Bull, and I don't know if you mentioned Taxi Driver, and also TV shows, like you said, they have a lot of time to devote to developing a character, whereas with a movie that's 90 minutes long, you get a couple of car chases and it's over.
Yeah. You know what films I loved in the last, when you go like the last 10, 15 years, I loved There Will Be Blood with Daniel Day-Lewis.
That's a fantastic movie.
I love Wolf of Wall Street.
I love Paul Thomas Anderson.
Yeah. Not all of this. I love Boogie Nights. I love Boogie Nights, but I didn't like.
Right.
Magnolia was okay, but then I think The Master was a bit bad. So,
interesting.
Yeah, so I didn't. They were like too artificial for me. Licorice Pizza was good. I like Licorice Pizza.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one.
Yeah, it was kind of like more a comedy, So, and it was lighter, but I think it was good. Mm-hmm. Now he's shooting a film with Leonardo DiCaprio. Let's see what that will be. And but There Will Be Blood was an absolute masterpiece, and I loved it. And Boogie Nights too. And and I loved, for example, also Wolf of Wall Street from Scorsese with DiCaprio, the broker. I loved that film. That was great, totally overdrive. And I loved recently Babylon from with Brad Pitt.
Damien Chazelle.
I didn't expect anything from the film. I was like watching TV and I like, they have Babylon now, so let's watch it. So I watched Babylon. And I loved it because it was for me a little like Wolf of Wall Street in the silent movie time. where it was so overdrive and so crazy. I mean, it was super. I was laughing my ass off a lot of times.
Yeah, especially those scenes at the beginning where they show you the silent movie era and the studios they've built. I mean, that was just insane.
Yeah, and when I did the first sound film they shot, right, where the guy died.
Yeah, that scene is fantastic. Yeah.
But it was this kind of like the times I laughed, where the film industry was not like an algorithm like now, where it was more like one or two crazy people determined what was going on, and they didn't really care, right? So there was a big freedom for filmmakers, because the real producers or studios, they were not really controlling what they were shooting. They just wanted product as cheap as possible with the biggest stars as possible. It had to whatever, so that they can fill the screens. There was no TV. Everybody ran to the movies every week, that you have maybe in countries like India still, where a lot of people have no TV, but now we have all cell phones in India. The box office goes down too, but it's where you went even to movie theaters to get warmed up in winter. And I loved that film. It totally entertained me, and it was just great. And all the actors were insanely good. All the actors were very good.
Yeah, I think a lot of filmmakers really appreciate that film. It's a filmmaker's film, right?
Totally.
Kind of like a love letter to that period of filmmaking.
Yeah, and you know what happened? You know why I watched it in the movies? Because of Amsterdam. So Amsterdam, the film with Christian Bale, with Margot Robbie, what played in.
I haven't seen it.
But it was 2 weeks. That came out 2 weeks before Babylon, and I hated it. And it was shit. It was totally boring. And then I didn't. 2 weeks later comes the next film with Margot Robbie, right? And I was done. So that was the reason I never went to Babylon to the movies, because in the movie theater, because I felt like, fuck it, I'm not watching the same shit again as I watched in Amsterdam. So whatever. So I never watched it. And then like 4 years later now, 4 years, 5 years, whenever it was, 3 or 4 years. And I'm happy that I catched it. I think it was also on Disney Plus, I think, yeah. But they lost a lot of money with the film, because when you see the film, you see how big that film was. I mean, there was a big tent pole movie thing, what tanked totally, as so many films about filmmaking, right?
Okay, let's go back to your path.
Yeah.
We talked about your kind of humble beginnings in Germany, but once you started, you didn't stop. Not only that, you actually ramped up. You went across the pond to the US, or was it Canada first? I'm not sure.
It was first, America.
It was America. How did you manage that pretty incredible jump?
To do the bridge fast. After German Fried Movie, the UFA in Germany gave us money to do Barschel, a political film. So small budget, 150,000. So we did that film. Then Frank and I, in a way, split up. And with the last money we had, I did Amok Run, like Amoklauf, like a very dark serial murder thing. And then I got hired by a Taunus Film in Wiesbaden, a production company. So I was the assistant of the CEO of the company. That brought me into the real TV business, film business, whatever. And I saw there are like a lot of German money goes to Hollywood and whatsoever. And I always wanted to do more American films, Hollywood films. So then I was able with investors to raise around $3-4 million, like as a private investment. And I only got that done because I worked at Taunus Film, what was a real studio. So I was believable that I can make a film, like this kind of thing. And then I went to Los Angeles, first time in my life. I was already 26, whatever. I don't know how old I was at that point, but I was already a little older. I went the first time to LA, and because the investors told me, you need to get some actors, you need a distribution, then we give you the money. So, and I went there and met like various actors by luck also in a restaurant. I met Mickey Rourke, but I couldn't make a deal with him. I met Jean-Claude Van Damme, couldn't make a deal with him. So, and then I met Regent Entertainment. They did a lot of these $2 million films, basically. And they got them Michael Paré, Caspar Van Dien, Eric Roberts, and they said we're not shooting in Los Angeles. We will shoot in Vancouver, in Canada, because whatever you shoot there, you get 35% back, like subsidies, basically, right? And that was very
from the Canadian government or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. So, and the Canadian dollar was very low, so you had also a benefit, because whatever in LA, a gaffer, electrician, let's say gets $300 a day, 300 US. In Canada, they got 300 Canadian, what was like 200 US. So now you got the people cheaper, plus you got the rebate. So you get out of 3 million, a $5-6 million film, basically.
Interesting.
So, and that is why we shot.
So you get more bang for your buck.
Yes, so, and you can spend if you want. Look, you have two options. You get, let's say you spend 3 million and you get $1 million back from the government, right? And you pay it back to the investors, or you bank the 1 million and spend an additional, and so you have a $4 million film, right? So because banks would cash flow this tax rebate there, and that then film by film we decided, okay, let's put that money additional in the post-production, computer effects, whatever, music, or we pay it back to the investors. So, and then I grew that investor business in Germany with more investors. We offered more kind of like also bigger returns when I moved into this video game based films, House of the Dead, Alone in the Dark. That happened only because I was looking for not because I'm a big video gamer. It really happened only because I saw a market where you can make more money. You can make bigger films and sell to bigger companies, because they will be, of course, interested in House of the Dead, because it's a Sega video game, what is worldwide known. So that was the thing what brought me into that video game world, basically.
Interesting. So like you mentioned, in the early 2000s, you start making these movies based on video games, House of the Dead, Alone in the Dark, Blood Rain. And these movies are not very popular with the critics. I believe Alone in the Dark was called one of the worst movies of all time, which is in and on itself a completely absurd statement. What do you think? Do you think what happened was that because one of your movies got a really bad review from the get-go, then people just couldn't wait to tear up the next one in the same manner, and it was just kind of a snowball type of reaction? Like in high school, if you start off with a really bad grade, then you're always a D student in the teacher's eyes.
Yeah, and exactly that happened to me. 100%. I think the films from before, after Sanctimony, I did Blackwoods, then I did Heart of America, what is a very good film, actually. And then I did House of the Dead. But the House of the Dead was the first film with a theatrical release. The first film what was in US in thousands of movie theaters. And that means all the reviewers watched it. So that was the first film from Uwe Boll they ever recognized. And they hated it. But I mean, I'm not really expected from a zombie movie based on a video game that I get like in the New York Times an article that I'm the new Martin Scorsese. So I was not expecting reviews, but I was also not expecting so much hate. And they treated me from the beginning on like a total outsider in Hollywood and a total like an enemy. The German Nazi enemy. I don't know, but they really, I don't know, but they really treated me like this. And then because I kept doing that video game based films, they completely lost their shit on me. I mean, you cannot say it different. It's always funny when the last 4 or 5 years when people discuss with me, oh, they hate, they're getting canceled, whatever. I said, look, all of this is all my career. So nobody can cancel Uwe Boll because I got canceled 2002 with House of the Dead and it never stopped. So it's like a kind of, at one point you just give a shit, right? You cannot handle it anymore. It makes you only mad. And I had to focus on making films. So, but it was really like exactly how you said. It's like the teacher who had a bad opinion about you, who thinks you cannot really pull it off, will not see a film when you actually pulled it off, right? So they overlooked later, I think, all my good films because they didn't have theatrical releases anymore. So they stopped watching my films after In the Name of the King, and then they didn't recognize whatever Rampage, Darfur, Assault on Wall Street, like films, they are like plainly good, like, and some are actually, I think, really good. And that is the thing. And that is the problem. If you do, like, take Paul Thomas Anderson or Terrence Malick or get people like this, they did the first film and it was a mega success with the critics. So they getting a lot of credits moving forward. They're getting not so harshly bashed, whatever, as somebody who starts on the wrong foot with them. So, and I think that is, it's sad because it rigs the system a little in a disadvantage for people that maybe have a slow start or they maybe have the wrong films to start with. So so that is, I think, just how it played out. But without all that video game based films, I wouldn't had a career. I mean, I would made a few films and would maybe do now German daily soaps. I don't know. So I really
How do you assess that period of your filmmaking, like films such as House of the Dead, Alone in the Dark, Blood Rain, etc.?
No, I mean, they're like, what I think what the video gamers hated in my case was that they didn't saw me as the total freak in, that they know I was not totally into video games myself and was not playing 8 hours a day video games. So that is where the gamers hate you already, because you're not one of them. In a way, I'm not a fanboy of, like, I know there are some great games, and but also video game based movies at that time were like nothing. They were not like comic book films. They always got Superman, Batman, whatever. Like, they were already big films, big franchises. But video games, what was done before me, like Wing Commander, like Street Fighter, some smaller kind of low budget films at that point. And then I was the first guy coming in and do like strategically film after film after film based on video games. They were like, what the fuck? Like, what is happening here? And as you see, the studios reacted in a way, because then the bigger studio films came. Prince of Serbia, World of Warcraft, they all came in a way after me, Resident Evil. So, and I don't think that films were great, but I don't think that films were horrible or really bad films. Like, if you watch Blood Rain now, I think it holds very much up, and it's more gory as most of the other films done like based on video games. Alone in the Dark, CGI looks good. The actors, Tara Reid was not so good, and it's just a simple genre films,
right?
With a lot of action,
kind of fun, entertaining flicks that are deviating from the source material of the video games, which people resented, especially gamers.
And I think House of the Dead was actually, I mean, it was cheesy on purpose, but it had some unbelievable shots. It had some, like, the Matrix rig set up with like turntable cameras. We had like crazy action scenes in House of the Dead, and I think they still work very well. And when you also see it now, look at the last 5-6 years. How many films totally bombed in the movie theaters? Like hundreds and hundreds of films made no box office. And House of the Dead did 11 million in the US. And they're like, oh, what a disaster. And I mean, look at the numbers now. That would be not a disaster. That would be actually a very solid box office for a $7 million zombie film. And they're all counted, like Alone in the Dark did 5.9 million in the US. And they're also like, what a disaster. Yeah, okay. That was way less as we wanted, of course. But also in comparison to today's time, so what? All that films made 10, 20 million in DVD sales. So, I mean, they were very strong on DVD. Blood Rain was one of the strongest titles in Germany of all times, and In the Name of the King with Jason Statham sold also around the globe, like millions and millions of DVDs. So it's always, a lot of the film critics, I think, also have no clue from the revenue business, like what comes back if you make a film and from what sources. And the reality is theater revenues are barely covering the cost to put a film in the theater. Last year, you can say only Barbie, Oppenheimer, Mario Brothers, Super Mario, and Avatar made any money. Everything else lost money because they spent more to release it as money came in. I think also some reviewers are not aware that the movie theater are getting half of the revenues. When they say, oh, the film made $100 million box office, okay, means 50 million back to the studio. So, and not 100 million back to the studio. And the profit margins are way higher in the DVD market and rental market also. That is all gone now because of the streamers, what is very, very bad for the industry. But we made, in the beginning, I think they sold to retail for like $10.99 DVDs, and retail sold it for $14.99. So it was $10 per DVD, and it was only $1 to make that DVD. So there was the money. If you sell 1 million DVDs, you have $9 million like back. And I mean, that was the money in the whole film industry. And I think that is now in a devastating, disastrous situation with the streamers, because the streamers only pay money based on you have superstars, whatever, or you produce something for the streamer. But if you sell a film to the streamers, you cannot make you cannot even make 10% of what you made with DVDs and Blu-rays 10 years ago.
Uwe, I have to ask you this. How did you develop such thick skin? If the critics were as vicious with me as they were with you, I would have cried myself to sleep. I would cry into my pillow every night going to bed. And I would also leave the filmmaking industry faster than you can say biscuit. Were you always that way?
I see it more like this. When I grew up, I grew up with not a lot of money, and I always had to save money and work for it, for a university, whatever. I worked at the chemical industry by Leverkusen, where my father worked. I worked at Mannesmann in the steel industry to make money. So I know what hard work means. And for me, it was always a pleasure that I made it, that I actually make films coming from the little shit town by Leverkusen, and you think okay, I cannot now get all crying and whiny because critics don't hate me. What is if critics would love me, but I would never made a film again? So what would I pick? Then I pick they all hate me, but I can't keep making films. So, and I think that helped me. It was not that it didn't have an effect. Of course it has an effect. But it's also this kind of where you think, no, I don't let myself getting so down, pushed down, and believe in the end I'm a total loser. That didn't succeed, basically, right? But of course, you're happy about any half-ass positive review, where people say, "Oh, actually, I like that film." Whatever. It's of course dogs barking again. I think now a package comes, DHL package or whatever. So
no problem. Yeah.
And I hope my wife opens the door. But I think that is the thing. It's this kind of if you remind yourself where you come from, then it's easier to handle things like this, because you feel already in a way blessed, right? So you feel like, wow, I actually making films here. I'm on set with Christian Slater, and you never thought about that would actually happen on this scale. And that made me happy. Yeah.
Now, speaking of critics, we also have to mention the legendary Raging Ball period, right? Before any of these YouTube Muppets that are doing it now, such as Jake Paul
Yeah.
In 2006 already, you challenged some of your fiercest critics to a boxing match, and I believe you also easily defeated them all. Can you walk us through what led you to this original idea?
Yeah, that was really because when Blood Rain came, the reviews were the same, like Alone in the Dark or House of the Dead, and I felt these are totally different films. I mean, why? What the fuck? I mean, what should I make? Why is Blood Rain not better as Underworld or whatever? You know, like I mean, because I felt it was better. So and that was the thing. It was like, and I had really big stars in Blood Rain. I don't think there was a bigger cast on any video game based film, you know, as in Blood Rain at that time. Ben Kingsley, Cristiano Loco, Michelle Rodriguez, Billy Zane, Geraldine Chaplin, Meatloaf. So, and then I felt, okay, guys, if you want to destroy me in the ring. Let's fight. Let's do a real fight. So I did that.
Respect.
Yeah. So exactly, and then you will see how reality will hit you, right, in form of my fists. So, and it was like
Chad.
yeah.
Yeah.
When I played handball always, and my father was actually German. By Leverkusen, they were German champions in handball. So I come from a handball family. But then when I was like 16, 17, I went to boxing additional and boxed for like 12, 13 years and really boxed like in a real top club. You know, we had Dariusz Michalczewski, who was later the Tiger, like the world champion in professional boxing, or Felix Sturm, who was later also world champion. So we had very good trainers, very good, let's say, sparrings and so on. So I know I cannot like get easy defeated by people they never boxed. So it was clear for me that I'm not in a big risk that I get totally destroyed by 4 film critics, you know. So that was also the reason I felt, okay, let's do four guys.
That's amazing.
Do it in one night, like boxing 4 guys in a row.
Yeah, just mash up all of them in the same evening.
Yeah. And the thing was also like, I didn't really know how they were looking like. That was different to what you normally, you know, how tall they are, how heavy they are. I didn't really care. So they applied, and then they wrote negative things about me. What was the main point for the application? And then we said, okay, you guys come up to Vancouver, and then we do a whole night of real fighting. Had a big arena. There were 1,000 people came and paid money to see that. And it was like, so I prepped because I was like, I don't want to lose. So I want to make sure I have also the cardio, the condition to beat 4 people up. Yeah, because it costs it costs energy to beat 4 people up if they can box or not. It's like, so it's not so easy to knock them down. So so that is what we did, and I really talked to them later, and I think most of them turned more friendly to me after, in a way. And some directors like Ron Howard, he said about it. He said, I wished sometimes I could do this. And
right, of course, who doesn't?
Directors have disappointing past with some critics, right? So, and yeah, but that was basically it. And then, of course, everybody came. Can you come to our film festival and box? And I did another boxing fight in Spain. I did another boxing fight in Texas. But then I said, so now it's enough. Like I said, that it's not the point now that I'm like what you just said, like a influencer going I want to go with my films to a film festival and not an invitation because I'm boxing people. So yeah, but that was also kind of similar to the video game films, also pre YouTube influencer time. I did exactly that what they're doing now, right? With all that celebrity matches and all the stuff they're doing. Yeah, but I mean, it was, for me, it was fun. It was kind of satisfying, and I don't regret it at all.
You lived the fantasy of everyone who was ever done injustice to by a critic. Be honest, did you feel like a Mike Tyson in there when you're knocking these guys about a little bit?
Yeah, no, I cannot compare myself. I've actually met Mike Tyson, right? I mean, maybe you saw the photo. I met him at a film festival in Kazakhstan, and there he was
Oh
already
wow.
hired, and he was a vegetarian, right? So he turned total vegetarian when he was in jail, and it was amazing to see that his height is like my height, and you think that guy like killed everybody in the ring. I still think when he was on
Yeah,
his
yeah.
peak, he would everybody who's right now world champion would have no chance against him, no chance. And he told me, like, I asked him about it, and I said, look, why you were boxing bigger guys, taller guys, heavier guys, but you always had the hard hand in. Like, this guys went down, like, and he said he had two assets. He said he really could see their hands, like he had very good reactions, right? He could see their hands so that he didn't get exactly hit on a knockout point or whatever, that he get only hit here. But then, and he was very accurate. And he said he had the same power left or right. And not a lot of people have that, right? That he was always standing like a pit bull in front of the people. He was not really like Muhammad Ali or everybody with the left jab and then comes with a hard hand. He was just standing right there, and he knows whatever, if I get him with the left or the right, it lights out. And that is what he did, right? So he was standing so stable. And that is why I loved him on his peak. He was absolutely undefeatable. It was unbelievable. We'll never forget that.
Yeah.
And
Terrifying.
yes,
Also, when he entered the ring,
yeah,
his song. Usually, people have like a song. I don't know what that's called.
yeah.
Entrance song, I believe it's
Yeah.
called. And he just had like one note. It was so
Yes,
scary and
like
terrifying.
yeah, like dum,
Yeah, just like bird, like some sort of humming.
and I will never forget when HBO went out of boxing. What was the biggest mistake HBO ever did? The last HBO boxing, they showed like highlights of like 40 years, 50 years, Ali Frazier, right? And you can say from and Tyson took 3 minutes of the 20 minutes. Everybody from HBO said, and then he came. Like when he entered the heavyweight thing, it was like only comparable to like Muhammad Ali. I mean, I think they're definitely the two most famous fighters in the history of this sport is Muhammad Ali and Mike Tyson. I mean, you have maybe Floyd Mayweather made more money and was more successful, but it's different. That was history what you were watching, right? So where you say like that will never happen again. And that is what I
Exactly.
loved. And I loved my time with him. We talked for hours and hours because I was at that festival with Max Schmeling, with my boxing film about Max Schmeling. And of course, he knew everything about boxing history. So he watched the whole film with me, side by side in the movie theater. And then the next day was the Mike Tyson docu about him. And I watched the whole thing with him, right? So, and that was a great experience for me as a box fan, and especially if you see like a guy of my size, like 1 meter 76, killed the 2 meters guys in the ring. They had no chance. They were like dead. Unbelievable, So, yeah, that is boxing. I love boxing so
All
much.
right.
Like I followed
Right.
boxing worldwide always. Yeah.
You mentioned Christian Slater already. And you worked with some of the biggest names in Hollywood, actors such as Ben Kingsley, Jason Statham, Burt Reynolds, J.K. Simmons, who later won an Oscar, and many more. What's it like hanging out with these people? What's Hollywood like?
Yeah, I was never living in Hollywood, right? So I just like uh got actors from there or sold films there. So I don't personally like Los Angeles. The longest I was there was 4 weeks at that time before I made my first film where I tried to get actors. But later I always like a week and I'm gone. So I'm not living the Hollywood life. I never did it. And I don't have a lot of Hollywood friends. But when you shoot a film, of course, you go for dinner with them. You meet them also private during the time you shoot a film. And I have to say, some of them were not this kind of like, I want to hang out every day with, so where you just feel like it's politics because you don't want to shoot a film, and you always try to be friends with your actors. You always want that they support you, that you support them, and that you have a good relationship with them, even if they're maybe intellectual, not necessarily so bright, or like knowing so much. They are actors, they playing their parts. Ben Kingsley is not Gandhi. So, and I had a good dinner with him at an Indian restaurant, and then we shot the film, and I never talked to him again. So Ron Perlman I saw after King for the Blood Rain premiere. He came with me to the Blood Rain film premiere, and Jason Statham I had another dinner with in when he shot another film, and it was in Vancouver. We had a dinner together and talked. So, but then normally actors are like, they're moving on. You don't stay long friends with an actor, especially if it's a busy actor, if it's a successful actor. They are like, for a time, they stay in contact with you, and then it dissolves. And then only the unsuccessful actors, they stay on you because they want to get hired for your next film, right? They keep emailing you. What are you doing? Are you shooting another film? Is there a part for me? But the actors you want again, like Jason Statham, whatever, like they're not like responding anymore.
Uwe, I also have to tell you, I just remembered that some of your rants from that time are so good. They're literally an art form. Whenever I have a bad day or I'm pissed off, I'm going to sometimes watch one of them and just be amazed at how you weren't taking any prisoners. You just went like straight for the jugular, which is how it's supposed to be done. It's just marvelous to watch.
Basically, my message is, fuck yourself. Whatever Marvel Avengers bullshit dirt, that is the film business. It's like a dirty pieces of shit, and I never played that game. Wake the fuck up. Iron Man is not existing. The Avengers are not existing.
And some people actually did respond. Some of the big names that you mentioned, like Michael Bay, wasn't that happy. I think he was quite triggered at the time. You two seemed like Tupac and Biggie of the filmmaking business or something. Did you later ever bump into anyone who demanded an apology or something?
No, I mean, I didn't apologize to anybody, but because I meant what I said about him. It's not like Michael Bay didn't make some good films, but I just think he had always so much money and all the big stars, and for this he came out flat. Most of the films are kind of just flat entertaining. They're not like Goodfellas or like Scorsese films or Oliver Stone films or Michael Mann films. He never made it to that level to deliver this kind of big star-driven films where they're like great. I think he made a lot of good films, The Rock or whatever, but he always had all that money and all that actors, and he could make more out of it. So, but I didn't really bounce into people. They said, "Uwe, you asshole, you insulted me" or something. That didn't happen. So, but I'm also not diplomatic, and I was, of course, also hurting my career a lot of times that I'm blunt, right? I say what I think, and I'm not like treat people better as me or better as anybody I meet. I'm not starstruck. I talk on set to Ben Kingsley the same as I talk to my last film, First Shift in New York, to Gino Pesi. But of course, they're totally different actors in a way of success. Ben Kingsley, Oscar winning, everybody knows him. Gino Pesi, very good actor, but not so known. So, but I treat them the same, and I think, I don't know, maybe some people do it different. But I think it's the best way to handle actors. Also, they have to feel that I'm on that film way longer as they will be on that film. I had whatever, prepped it, made it, post-production, distributed, sell it. So, and I have to be the leader doing the film. They have to know, like, I'm the boss, not them or whatever, even if they get way more money as me to make the film. But but that is because they are stars. Yeah.
Do you think these days the tides are turning a little bit when it comes to evaluating Uwe Boll's catalog? Because whatever people might think about your movies, you were a total maverick in the industry. And I can see that people are appreciating you more and more because of that and because of what you just said. You didn't give a shit. You treat everybody the same. You were blunt. You were honest. You did an interview for another podcast recently, and a lot of people in the comments said, I'll take Uwe's films over the standard Hollywood crap any day.
No, that is good. That makes me proud, right? I'm happy if that would happen. I'm happy that they reevaluating some of the films. I'm also very happy, for example, how much some films, especially like Postal and Rampage, are really turned into kind of cult films where people talk about and where they say, I never saw stuff like this ever again, after or before. And that I makes me proud. And in the very end, it counts more of what the people think, what the audience thinks, and not what the reviewers think, or or an agent in Hollywood, whatever. Film history is always made after the fact, So and that I needed time, and I did 100% a lot of films that were just maximum entertaining. They were not great films. But I never did, in my opinion, I never did a totally shit film where I would say that is really absolutely unwatchable. Everything what I did was entertaining. Like nobody said, oh, I started sleeping in an Uwe Boll film, right? So, and that I think is already an accomplishment. And on the other hand, I think with some of the films, I made an impact. What now makes people change their opinion. And I see that always when I, for example, ask an actor for a film to play the film, whatever, and as soon I send normally a streaming link then to the actor if he didn't watch one of my films, right? And I normally send them Darfur and Assault on Wall Street, and the feedback is every single time very, very good. Like they're very, very impressed. And they said that Assault on Wall Street was better as Wall Street 2, and Darfur, everybody watches it, thinks like, I was crying the whole time. Like at various times where actors told me that. They said that was a sensational film. Why I never heard about it. Yeah, so, and that is then the welcome in the distribution world, If in Darfur I would have George Clooney, I bet the same film would got Oscar nominations. Exactly the same film, but just with George Clooney. It didn't have that A-list star, what brought that film to a bigger audience. So, but I'm happy if people give it a shot and watch some of the films again, or maybe the first time. I bet that I could, in the very end, get some good reviews. Retrospective.
If I can return to that story from the beginning when you came to Slovenia with Rampage, I remember that a lot of people in the audience, and me included, most of us actually didn't see any of your films before, but we have heard about your reputation, about these movies are so bad, etc.
Yeah.
So we expected some sort of an unwatchable disaster to unfold on the screen. And then after we saw Rampage, we were quite, almost a little bit shocked, because Rampage was a completely solid, coherent film that actually had a message, actually had something to say. I think you gained quite a few converts that day. People really liked the movie.
Yeah, no, and that was my experience from when I toured. I was in Germany on a tour, like sneak preview tour, like in the big multiplex cinemas. They're always like sneak previews. And I went to that screenings, and when the movie started, you had like boos, like, oh God, Uwe Boll. And they had also this kind of, oh fuck, like Rampage. They didn't know the actors, right? So, but after 10, 15 minutes, they were all totally into it. And that was a very like commercial crowd. People, they watch normally only Oppenheimer, right? Like you don't have art house or cineast people going in a sneak preview. It's a more party crowd. They want fun, whatever. But not one person out of Rampage ever left.
You run a very successful restaurant business, but will you make more movies in the future? What's in store?
I shot a film, First Shift, in New York in March, a police drama. I don't know. Did you saw the trailer? I can send you the.
No.
No, I will send you the trailer link.
Please do.
And so that film will come out in the US in June in some movie theaters, and in Germany too. And we also, I think, sold Eastern Europe, but then the guy didn't send me a confirmation and the contract, but I hope we can sell various territories. So First Shift, very happy about it. And I will shoot in Croatia in April at a film with the
nice
Run. And it plays in Italy, but we're shooting in Croatia because with Boris Velkan, I made the Max Schmeling, Blue Barella, and so on. So a co-production. And it's basically a film that plays in one day where like a migrant boat from Africa comes onto an island in Italy. And then the situation goes completely out of control, like a very harsh action film based on everyday's situation in Lampedusa and Italy and whatever, right? So, and it will be very controversial as usual, but I think it's a good subject matter for like I like always to be kind of realistic. Where you have a realistic approach to something, what I did in The Salt of Wall Street and Rampage, Darfur, they're all films based with a real thing. And then I spin a story around it. And the migrant issue is something I'm looking deep into it. I'm not a Nazi and want to kill them, right? But what I want to show in the film...
I hope not, yeah.
Yeah, but in the film, it will be kind of this, right? So where... because it keeps going and keeps going and keeps going, and then you will have people from the population who will try to kill them at one point. You will have a total right-wing turn in Europe, and that is what the film will basically show. Plays maybe in 3-4 years, and it will scare the shit out of all the governments in a way. But I see myself as a filmmaker who should do this because nobody else would do a film like this, right? So, yeah.
Right. Yeah. Last question. If you could give any advice to young filmmakers in the era of smartphones, TikToks, and social media in general, what would it be?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. You have so many possibilities, also editing tools, special effect possibilities. Like, it was never easier to put your own channel together and start with making maybe short movies or something where you express yourself with the quality. So like focus on printing your own business card with this kind of productions, doing it all yourself. You learn how to make a film, at first small films or short films. And then you can enter the real business with this material. Like you can say, look what I can do with my cell phone. If you hire me, I can make a TV show, I can whatever. So I think it's now way easier as in my times where you had the money to really shoot or to have like when VHS cameras with shitty quality. So I think now it's a good time for newcomers. And it's also when I talk to people, it's definitely time where you can make, even on YouTube, a lot of money. I know people, they only distributing over YouTube, and they recoup 20, 30, 40,000 bucks with films, what they maybe made themselves. So I think YouTube is the best public source of and the biggest streamer in the world, right? So where you can express.
But are you talking Are you talking about like just random YouTube videos, people dancing or whatever?
No,
Or
no,
are you
no,
talking
people are
about
watching
proper films with a
stuff.
story and actors?
Yeah, no, that is the thing. I know people, they shoot films and releasing them only through YouTube, and they recoup their 30, 40,000 bucks. And there are also the various film channels that can take you in, right? You can also self-distribute and post your film on Amazon, on Google Play, VMO against money. Then I have to advertise it, because otherwise nobody will pay money for it, right? So, but all of this is possible. So there are distribution possibilities. The question is only, what can I do to find an audience? What can I do that people actually like looking for my stuff? And there, I think people are more successful, as we see with Logan Paul and all, Mr. Beast and all that. If you are a little more like a creator, like an influencer, you make your channel and you put your stuff on your channel and grow audience. And of course, that is normally not a fiction film. That are normally videos from real stuff, pranks,
and I hate that stuff.
Yeah.
I think it's really stupid.
That is what the kids love.
YouTube crap.
Kids watch, but it's also possible to make real fiction films and real things with actors and release them through various outlets online and recoup some money. If it's a lot, I don't know, but I know people, as I said, they made 20 to 40,000 euro revenues only with YouTube advertising, right? So no, like you can watch it for free, and the advertising is on it, and that is not so bad. If we would put that with German Fried Movie, my first film where we spent 60 grand, would be not so bad, right?
Uwe, this conversation was such a delight. Thank you so much for taking the time. Do you have any social media where people can follow what you're up to these days?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter, and let me see here what my I'm here. It's Uwe Boll 7, like the number 7, not written out. Like Uwe Boll 7 is Twitter.
Uwe Boll 7.
Yeah, and I'm also on Instagram. I'm not the biggest Instagram and Twitter guys, right? So it's not like that. I'm really doing.
You're not an influencer yet.
Yeah,
right.
I'm doing that a lot. But on Instagram, it's Uwe Boll Films. It's like Uwe undersigned films. Right, I put it in the chat. That is me, because there are a lot of people also, of course, impersonating me. There are various Uwe Bolls on Twitter, various Uwe Bolls on Instagram.
Oh,
yeah. but only this one.
No.
It's really me, right? So yeah.
Uwe Boll identity theft.
100%.
Okay. Thanks again, Uwe. This was a blast.
I put it here also in the chat.
Oi! Thank you for listening to the episode. If you've enjoyed it, please subscribe and follow on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. As always, eternal glory and gratitude to my producers who are supporting this show on Patreon, the kings and queens, Gordan, Jurechuk, Lorenzo, Veronica, Mila, Carmen, and Taichi. Without you, this pod would not have been possible at all. If you'd like to become a certified Tovarish or Tovarishica of the show too, head to Patreon, find Smart Cookies podcast on there, and become one. It's as simple as that. Thank you.